Hello and welcome to Americans Talk Australian Survivor. I'm Rachel, and it will just be me today due to some scheduling conflicts, but we're hoping to have the whole gang back together soon. I just finished episode 14 of Australian Survivor Titans vs. Rebels, and there will be spoilers ahead. So we jump into the Tassi tribe, the newly merged tribe, right after the very first tribal council, where Scott made the decision to go home due to his mental health. So we see Caroline crying in the camp. She looks really distraught. She's really struggling. She said that it was a very emotional tribal council, and after seeing how Mark and Val are targeting her, she just cannot sleep next to Mark. She's really, really upset. She confides in Kitty, and they're able to kind of shuffle around the sleeping arrangement, so she doesn't have to sleep with Mark. But I was kind of surprised on this because we knew as the audience that Mark and Val had flipped on Caroline, and they had never really been close since the Viola vote. We know that Mark had been targeting Caroline, and Val has been telling everyone that she wants revenge. So I guess maybe Caroline didn't quite realize until tonight just how out for blood they really were. But it's definitely disappointing to see and, upsetting to see Caroline so upset. And it must be really tough to be out there day in and day out with someone right next to you that wants you gone and has so much anger. So that is too bad to see that happening to Caroline, but hopefully she had a good night of sleep after the sleeping arrangements changed. So the next morning, we wake up and we see Kitty saying that she really thought she was going home last night, so she was just kind of flaming the fire. She thought, if I'm going to go home, I may as well go out big. And so she was kind of arguing a little bit, saying things that she wished she hadn't said. And it's nice to see that level of introspection because we can all imagine that when you're under that stress in the moment, you're worried, you're like, what can I say to get the heat off of me? So it's understandable that she was maybe acting a bit out of character last night with her comments about her business and, angry comments at Mark. So now she's saying, okay, I have to take a step back and I have to change strategy. So we see Kitty approaching absolutely everyone on the beach, trying to find a crack to save herself, which is great. That's what Survivor is all about. You have to take a step back and say, something's not working, I have to switch things up. So she approaches Kirby, and she's, trying to turn Kirby against Mark and Val. But as we know, those are Kirby's main alliance members, so I don't know if Kirby was necessarily the right person to approach. Kirby's kind of like, I don't know if we'll work together, but maybe. She just seems to have not the best vibes from Kitty. She says that she stands too close and looks too closely at her, which is kind of funny because I bet that's what Scott really picked up on with Kitty. We remember from last episode, Scott said that he really enjoyed Kitty. He really liked her energy, and he just couldn't, knowingly vote her out. And so it's so interesting to see how Kitty's demeanor saved her almost last night with Scott telling her that she was on the chopping block, but now today it's kind of turning Kirby off of her. So that's the great thing about Survivor. There's just so many different ways to interpret each individual action, and there's so much more than just the strategy. There's just like little things that bother you or make you closer to one person, and that can change the game. So Kitty overall is really paranoid. She's just talking to everyone. Mark and Eden are talking. It's good to see them finally back together. And they say that Caroline and Kitty are just kind of looking desperate, and it's not good for them to be chatting with everyone. They think that, the battle lines are starting to be drawn, and it's not a good look to be scrambling morning after tribal. Mark says that he's still definitely on Kitty, and nothing has changed from his perspective. So then we head into the immunity challenge. There's no reward today, to the disappointment of Jaden, who thought maybe it would be a merge feast. There was no food at all. It was just an immunity challenge, but I love that he's manifesting some food for himself. I hope he gets it one day. So Kitty is telling JLP that she's really feeling the pressure after last night. She knows that she has to win this immunity necklace to be safe tonight, and she's really feeling it. So for the challenge, there's ropes for each player hanging over water, and there's different size knots on the rope. So you have to stand on the knot at varying degrees as the challenge moves on, and the last one standing wins immunity. So everyone tells us this is very, very uncomfortable. No one is happy to be doing this challenge. They say, it might be a quick one because they're just not having a good time. So Kirby and Ferris kind of make a pact. They're going to jump on the count of 3. They're both just like, this is not for me. They count to 3 and neither of them move. So that's kind of a fun insight into, their personalities as players. They're very competitive, but I was a little bit disappointed to see them kind of saying like, well, this isn't really my strength. I might just kind of sit this one out. And while there is an advantage to saying this isn't my time to shine, I'm going to save my energy for a challenge that I may be better suited for, it's also Survivor, and this is the time to push yourself and see how long you can stand on a knot in an uncomfortable, rainy environment. So it's a little bit disappointing to see both Kirby and Ferris drop out right after Mark does and just kind of say like, this isn't for me. I wish they would push themselves a little bit more. But maybe they were, and they were just trying to play it off in a more confident manner. Anyway, the challenge includes live transitions, so this is always an added layer of excitement. So not everyone can survive the transition. It seems like that's really a way that they're getting people out of the game. Val doesn't make it on the first transition. It starts to rain. It looks really, really miserable. And we see Eden, Ree, Kitty, Aileen, and Alex standing as the 5 that are really going well in this endurance challenge. Eden's a little bit shaky, but everyone else seems to really be doing quite well. On the next transition, Eden and Alex are not able to make the transition. They both kind of like slide off the rope, and it looks like it really hurt their hands. So dangerous challenge, I guess. So it comes down to Kitty, Rihanna, and Aileen, and Kitty slips. I guess it was slippery on the rope with all the rain, and it was too bad because a lot of players in the challenge were kind of getting to a point where they're like, I just can't hold on anymore, I'm going to drop out. And she just slipped, like she didn't make the decision to drop out because it was getting to be too much. So that was disappointing to see because, like she said, she really needed this win, and she could have kept going, it looked like, from an endurance standpoint. So it's a showdown between Aileen and Rihanna. So they're even saying in the water, the other players watching, we've seen this before. These two are really good. And it looks like Aileen's pretty shaky, and Rihanna says, I'm here all day, so you can drop out if you want to. And she looks really strong. She's not moving at all. And Rihanna looks pretty beat up. She's got a bunch of Band-Aids on, her nails turning black, so she is really out there in the elements. It's been almost a month out there, and she's doing well to still be standing there with all those injuries and everything going on. So Aileen eventually drops out, and Rihanna wins her very first individual immunity. So congratulations to Rihanna. That's very exciting. And Alex says that she's going over to receive her necklace. She is a major threat, and she's going to keep winning these. So it looks like her target is starting to form on Rihanna's back, so hopefully she can keep up the immunity wins and not go home. So we get back to camp, and Kirby and Rihanna have a chat and discuss how they are close allies and they'll always have each other's back, but they may not end up voting together when the tribe is so big, and they may just come together once some people go home. So this is interesting because typically when we have a close alliance and they disagree on who to vote for, we see kind of this idea of like, well, if you don't vote for me this time, I'm coming after you next time, and if you break my trust, that's it. And these two are so confident in their alliance that they're saying we don't even have to work together every vote, but we'll still have each other's back. So I hope they can make it work, because that would be pretty impressive to make it to the end and say, I had an alliance on the other side of the tribe and we didn't even vote together, but we were still able through the social connection to, work together at the end or something like that. So We'll see if it works. I was a little bit worried when they were talking about this because I'm thinking if I don't know, Caroline or Kitty, someone who is working with either Rihanna or Kirby, and everyone on the tribe seems to know that they have a pretty tight, they're a tight duo. So if I see one of them voting with me and not the other one, I'm going to be thinking, is someone playing double agent? Are you going to flip on me? It's just kind of a red flag to see that they're not working together when they're known allies. So I could see this kind of blowing up in their faces. I hope it doesn't, but something to definitely be careful for with the two of them. Then we move on and we see Mark talking about how he's still definitely on Kitty, and he is talking with Kirby and everyone, and they're all kind of on for Kitty. They say, let's maybe not tell Alex because he always blabs the plan to everyone else. So maybe keep it from him. Don't tell him all the plans. Then we see Caroline, Kitty, and Jaden saying that they're going to target Mark for sure. They are upset with him for targeting them, and they want him gone. So Rihanna says that she is definitely with Caroline and Kitty. They seem a little bit hesitant, and she is saying she's totally with them. So it looks like at this point it's going to be a Mark versus Kitty vote. But then, as what always happens in Survivor, things change. So Valeria comes up with an idea. She says, Kitty is so paranoid right now. She already thinks the votes are coming for her because of last night. So let's move the vote. We lost the element of surprise. Let's go after Caroline because she is not expecting it. And that's interesting because if Caroline or Kitty had an idol, they would almost certainly play it for Kitty tonight. So by switching the vote, we're shifting the idol target and, making it more of a surprise, more of a blindside. So I think that's a good idea. I think it's good to kind of shift the focus. We know as viewers that Caroline is really the head of the snake, so to speak, in this alliance. She is really calling the shots. And Kitty is, at this point, seems to be more of like a second in command to Caroline than like a major threat. Yesterday, they were talking about how Kitty's more of a challenge threat, so I guess they're kind of weighing the risk and benefit at this point and feeling that it would be better to surprise Caroline and get her out here. And I think that's the right idea. Caroline is so smart that if she has any inkling that she's going home, she'll probably find a way to fix it. So I think you do have to get her out in a surprise vote. We've seen Mark attempt a lot of surprise votes on Caroline, and none of them have been successful. So we'll see if he can pull it off tonight. Mark then goes over to Jaden and tells him the plan is Caroline, and Jaden's like, okay, cool. And this was kind of a surprise. I was thinking Jaden, Caroline, and Kitty are like a core three. They've voted together, I think, every vote, or almost every vote, and it seems like the three of them are always together. So if I were Jaden, I would turn around and say, hey, Caroline, they're voting for you. He's about to lose a main ally, the main person who's keeping him in the game and telling him what to do. But he seems to be totally on board. So I'm wondering if maybe Jaden feels that he is just being told what to do by Caroline and Kitty, and he's not like a valued member of their alliance. Or if he really just does not feel any allegiance to anyone, is just like, whoever tells me, that's what I'll do. But this is going to be an interesting point in Jaden's game, because now that we're in the individual section of the game and individual immunity is at play, Jaden hasn't seemed to be a threat in the last two immunity challenges, but he may eventually get to that point where if it's strength-based or something like that, he may be a major threat. So I think that it would be in his best interest to keep Caroline and Kitty on his side because they've been protecting him this whole time. And so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how Jaden plays out this game, but I was very surprised to see Mark go and tell Jaden, and that he was so okay with it. On the flip side, we see Caroline is getting very worried about the vote tonight, as she should be. She doesn't feel like she has the numbers. She's worried about Rihanna. She's worried about Alex. And so she approaches Ferris. So she says Ferris and she have not worked together, so this would be kind of like an unsuspecting duo. Ferris Raymond and Aileen are a voting block for Caroline that she sees as a core three to have 3 more votes. So she thinks if she can convince Ferris, she has 3 locked-in votes for whoever she wants. So Kitty and Caroline approach Ferris and they say, listen, Mark, Winna, and Val are going to dominate the game. They're all strong players. We have to get them out. And Ferris says, oh, you know what? I've actually been thinking about Winna. That would be great. And I'm wondering, is Ferris playing them? Like, is he really on to get Winna? It seems like he had been focused on Kitty last night. And in his soundbite, he says, yeah, he's excited to get out Winna. No one would suspect this group of players working together. So, and he knows that Winna is a strong player. Winna won immunity last week or last episode, and he is a strong player. He could go far in the game if he's not taken out early when he does not have the necklace. So it looks like Caroline and Kitty may actually be able to pull this off. Interestingly enough, though, they say they're not going to tell Rihanna or Alex about the vote. So they are worried that Rihanna is still working with Kirby and they don't want it to get back that they are going after Winna because the target has shifted. And again, the same idea with like idols, you want to have that element of surprise. And I'm worried about them not telling Rhi because we saw when we were on the tribe swap section of the game that Rihanna was willing to vote with Caroline and Kitty, and they told her to vote for Mark, and she did, and no one else voted for Mark. And I think that's when Sarah went home. So Rihanna's already been told a fake name and proved her allegiance to Kitty and Caroline, and she's kind of already been burnt by them, I feel like. That, I think if it happens again, that's kind of really going to sever the bond between Rihanna, Caroline, and Kitty. Being told a fake name once is like, okay, that's building trust, but a second time, that seems to be too much. So I'm worried about that. In terms of Alex, they said they're going to tell him to vote out Val because same thing as Mark's concern, they just don't trust him to not go and tell the other tribe. And that one I'm like, okay, I can see that because Alex does have a history of running and telling the other side what is going to happen. And he also doesn't have any major allies in the game that he can kind of turn to after this vote, whereas Rihanna can just go right back in with Kirby and be a number for them. So interesting approach. I kind of see both sides, but I'm worried about this decision that Caroline and Kitty make. So we go into Tribal, and my head is spinning. We have so many names being thrown out. We have fake plans. We have real plans. We have secret alliances. So it's definitely getting exciting. So we sit down at Tribal, and the group is talking about how it's not going to be just a repeat of last night because now that Scott's gone, they've had more time together, things have changed, alliances have shifted, and every second in the game counts, and things have changed. So Eden says this will be huge because we need to see where the lines were drawn, and this is the time to do it. We didn't see any votes last night, so we don't know where everyone is post-merge in terms of their alliances. So this is really an exciting time. Eden compares this afternoon to speed dating. He said it was Survivor speed dating. Everyone was running around in different pairs, switching conversations, and they kind of ran with this analogy saying, do you think you have any matches? Do you think you're gonna, pull through tonight? So I thought that was a good analogy. Interestingly, Winna says that he's totally not stressed tonight. He says there's no point. Everything that can be done is done, and he thinks everyone should just be confident in their conversations and what happened at camp moving forward. You should just be confident in your alliance. So this is something we really don't hear often in Survivor. Typically, when the host asks, should you be worried tonight? Are you worried? Everyone says the same thing. They're like, well, if you're not worried in Survivor, you're probably going home. Everyone should always be at least a little bit worried that their name is going to come up. And Winna is taking the totally opposite route. And it looks like he may be proving the point that if you're not worried, you're on the chopping block. So it's nice to see, though, that he's just so relaxed. I think it's worked well for him and Jaden to kind of take this laissez-faire approach to the game so far because it is just a game. So at the end of the day, you should be there to have fun. You can't, be so worried that you're going to get sick over it, because it is just a game at the end of the day. So right before we go up to vote, Valeria makes an interesting statement. She said that she will never trust anyone who went against her. So, of course, we all know that she's after Kitty and Caroline, so that's not news. But then she says that she's going for the weakest link and the person who doesn't deserve to be here. So I'm thinking, if I'm Kitty or Caroline and I have an idol, and she says she's voting out the weakest link, I'm thinking, do I change the vote from Kitty to Caroline or the idol play? Because I think she just kind of gave that away. Kitty is not the weakest link physically. Caroline definitely held her own today in the challenge, but would be probably considered one of the weaker players physically. So I'm thinking she kind of gave away the vote right there. I also think it wasn't really a fair assessment. It was a little bit too harsh. Caroline is not a weak player in terms of the game and strategy. She's really making big moves, and she definitely deserves to be at the merge and continuing through the merge. So I think something we've seen with Valeria a lot is that Tribal, she gets really intense and a little bit too aggressive, I think. At the end of the day, it is a game, so I guess she's just trying to drum up the drama and make for good TV, but I think that she gets a little personal at times. So we all head out to vote. It turns out that none of these comments really had an impact because there are no idols played. We know that Rihanna has an idol, and it would have been interesting to see if Caroline and Kitty had asked her to play the idol for Kitty. I don't know that she would have, because it was so kind of last minute for her to even, she was kind of in between voting with them versus voting with Kirby, so would she have played an idol for them? Probably not. I also don't know if they know that Rihanna has an idol. She found it with Eden and Mark during that thing where you could either go to the feast or pick a clue to the idol. So it's like a semi-public idol. I don't know how many people know. I'm assuming Caroline and Kitty don't know about it because they didn't even talk about it. And then, of course, Alex has his idol, but he doesn't seem to be super attached to this vote, so he's not playing that tonight for anyone. So no idols are played, and we get to read the votes. The first vote is for Winna. He looks totally shocked. His, mouth drops open. He's looking at Jaden. They're both like, what's going on? He gets 5 votes. Then 5 votes come out for Caroline. We see 1 vote for Mark, 1 vote for Val, and there's 1 vote left. So things are just all over the place. A great tribal council. And with the last vote, Winna goes home. So it's too bad to see him leave. He was a fun player. He was doing well in challenges, and it would have been exciting to see how far he could make it. But I am happy to see that Caroline is still in the game. She is playing the game, making big moves, and you want to see people who are playing in the game. So it was a close call, and they were able to pull it off. So congratulations to Caroline and Kitty for making it through the next tribal council, or this tribal council. Before they stand up and leave, Kirby leans over to Rihanna and says, "Who'd you vote for?" She says she voted for Mark, and Rihanna says, or Kirby says, "It sounds like they tricked you. That's very interesting," which is kind of what I was saying before. That's now the second time that she's been told a fake name from Caroline and Kitty, and I think it's time for Rihanna to go back to Kirby. I think, once is something, twice is too many. So I hope that Kirby is able to convince Rihanna to jump back with her alliance, and we'll see how it plays out tomorrow night. So I'm excited to see how the tribe continues on as a merged tribe. We'll see you tomorrow for that episode, and in the meantime, don't forget to follow us at ATA Survivor on Instagram and TikTok. Send us an email at ataustraliansurvivor@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 475-4podcast. Thanks, and we'll see you tomorrow.